And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I go over there, and we're going back and forth. And as I get over there, the standing bid is with him. We're bidding against each other on this DeLorean. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm a car guy, but I'm also like a Back to the Future fan. I mean, I saw these in the theater, in the day, right? So I'm not like the massive Back to the Future fan where they love the DeLorean, just because of the movie. I knew about the car vaguely before the movie. It was never really on my radar because it was an expensive, exotic car, in the early '80s, and I was a kid and didn't really know. But I knew what a DeLorean was, and thought it was a cool looking car before the movie. And some people love the car just because of the movie, but there's so much more to the DeLorean story than Back to the Future. The story of John DeLorean and the underdog going against the big three. I love that kind of stuff, like the Tucker movie and Preston Tucker and all that stuff. So I love the underdog story, and I've always been an underdog my entire life. So I kind of felt a connection to the DeLorean, and it's the only car in history really is been built out, with a stainless steel body, and it will never be done again. So it's a significant car. People really like to kind of poo-poo on the car as a car, but you got to understand, this car was from scratch in a very short time, a complete brand new company, and it really deserves a lot of respect for what he actually pulled off. Talk about the ultimate dreamer. Don DeLorean is the ultimate dreamer. But so a DeLorean's always been on my bucket list of cars. And they were cheap. I mean, you could buy a decent DeLorean for 10, 15, a nice one for 10, 15 grand, But this was back in the day where, it might as well have been $100,000 to me, But I always thought it's something that I would like to have. Then as of more recent times, I started getting serious about, I think I might like to try to find a DeLorean. I think it's time for me to own one of these cars. So I'm kind of on the hunt, per se. So I've got a car that actually I bought from Tyler. It was from one of his Car Issues TV shows. I bought the '89 Saleen Mustang. I love Fox bodies. It was a real Saleen, salvage title, and it had been heavily modified. I got the car, looked fantastic. I love white cars, right? '80s cars. So immediately I told Carl, I said, I want that car, So I bought the car, and it was a basket case. Wizard didn't even want to touch this car. He's just like, you can buy this car, but I'm not working on it. I'm done with it. I'm like, oh, okay. So me and the wife would go out to drive it, and it just wasn't fun. She didn't like it. It was not a good street car. It was just way too heavily modified. So I decided to take it to Mecum. So me and Tyler, we decided, okay, we're going to go to the Mecum in December. I'm going to take the Saleen there, and I'm going to sell it, and hopefully it'll bring decent money. And there's a couple of DeLoreans there. One of them is, nicer than the other one, and one of them's kind of a basket case. So I'm looking at the cars and going through them and deciding what looks good, what looks bad, and what I might potentially, try to kind of steal or whatever. And so this one, it had 40, 50,000 miles on it. It didn't run, as far as we were talking to the people that are, kind of like chaperoning the cars, and what we understood was it didn't run. And I'm like, well, this is kind of what I'm looking for. They're going to push us across the block, right? This is my kind of car, something I can steal, and I can do mechanic stuff. I'm not a body guy. I'm a mechanical guy. And I'm like, yeah, this car is on my list of potential, cars here. So they're rolling cars up on the stage on the one side, and then I'm actually over on the other side for whatever reason, and Tyler's on one side, I'm on the other, and they're pushing the DeLorean up to the stage, and I'm probably thinking, it's probably going to go out on what I want to spend. And it's kind of probably a pretty big basket case. So I'm kind of going, I don't know. Well, two things happened. They started the car and drove it up on the stage. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing runs, because they said it didn't run. And so I'm like, okay, well, at least now I know more about the car. So I'm willing to maybe pay more money for it. It's piqued my interest. And then they start the bidding off at like $6,000 or $8,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to start bidding on this car. And so I'm running over to tell Tyler, I'm going to buy this car. And so I run around the stage, right? Because I'm over here and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I go over there, and we're going back and forth. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding on the car. And then in the meantime, I'm running over to Tyler, and I'm basically bidding And as I get over there, the standing bid is with him. We're bidding against each other on this DeLorean. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, like we're bidding on the same car. And then I forget exactly what it was like maybe 15 grand or something like that it sold for. And like, boom. And they dropped the hammer because I quit bidding when I saw Tyler bidding, you know, and I'm like, dude, you just stole my DeLorean from me. You know, I'm like, what? You weren't even looking at these cars. I've been telling you, you should buy a DeLorean. I think it'd be good for the channel. It kind of turns out that he kind of like jumped on a landmine for me because if you'll watch his episodes on that DeLorean, it was automatic. The transmission was what the major fault was on the car. I missed the DeLorean, you know, and Tyler got that one, and I was kind of like, man, you know, that was kind of really, and the other one had sold too, and I was like, man, I'm an idiot, you know, because the prices are going up on these cars, you know, so I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get the DeLorean. Well, Tyler gets the DeLorean and he starts doing videos on it, right? Well, and then he starts getting messages from viewers, and actually a local guy in Wichita calls Tyler, and Tyler actually knew this person. I think they went to school together or something. And he says, hey, I got a DeLorean. Do you want to buy it? I get a phone call. I'm just driving around. He's like, hey, you want to buy a DeLorean for like 17 grand? He says, it's got like 40,000 miles on it. It's not running, but it's a nice car. And I'm like, yes, let's go look at it right now. And so we went over to where this car had been sitting. He'd taken it to a repair shop, you know, and they had given him an estimate to recommission it because, you know, it had been sitting for a long time and those cars do not like to sit. So we go over there and look at the car, and I open the doors and it's kind of sitting out there. It's kind of a diamond in the rough, my kind of car. It's been sitting outside, but I open the interior. The interior's nice. I mean, it doesn't smell bad. I can't tell you how many doors of the DeLoreans you open up and it smells like a swamp. I bought the car and put it on the tow truck and towed it to my shop. I have my first DeLorean, and and I paid, like I said, 17 grand for it, but I had one because the prices were they were getting to where they're kind of just starting to shoot up pretty high. And so I got that car in my shop, and that night, just to tell you what a goofball I am, I sat in the car, non-running, till about midnight, listening to 80s music on the radio in the shop, non-running car, and I was in there for 2 hours just sitting in the car and just like a 10-year-old kid. So I got the car going, redid the fuel system, put in new fuel pump and injectors and lines, and got it running, and then got it over the wizard, and then he did some more work to it to kind of get it dialed in. And got it to turn into a really nice car. So okay, this is my DeLorean now. It's got 40,000 miles on it. It runs and drives perfect. It's not a perfect car. The sun had split the stitches on the seat, so I bought the OEM replacement seat covers, and the fascias, the paint on the fascias were faded out, had them repainted. So I really reconditioned it to be a really nice driver. And I'm like, I love this car, and this is just my DeLorean. I'm not selling it, and I'll just basically probably just buy it from myself, from my own company. Well, just about the time I got the car sorted out, I come across a lead on another DeLorean and a Lotus. So what's ironic is, I guess you're kind of birds of a feather flock together. The DeLorean and the Lotus share a lot of DNA, and actually had a 90 Lotus Esprit Turbo SE that I also had with the DeLorean. So I had a Lotus and a DeLorean, and it was the most ironic call that I got a call that somebody else had a Lotus and a DeLorean. She sent me pictures of the cars, but you know how that goes. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, but I got a good enough sense that these were pretty legit cars. The Lotus was a 94 S4 with 30,000 miles on it, and the DeLorean was an 83, which is the most rare, with 12,000 miles on it. And so I jumped in my truck and trailer, and we drove to West Virginia in December to look at these cars. So I pull in to the drive, and I met the family, really nice people, and so we popped the garage door, and I'm looking at the most perfect Lotus and DeLorean I've ever seen. The DeLorean, I'm like, we brought a trailer, I'm gonna haul one and drive one, and I'm going, well, I'm driving all the way back to Kansas. I fired the Lotus right up, and the Lotus fired right up, ran perfectly, drove it around the block, and I'm like, hey, this car runs good. And then the DeLorean, you hit the key and nothing happened, right? Just like in the movies, click, click, I'm like, you know what? It's not running, but I'm buying a package deal here. So I'm like, and it was a good deal. And I'm like, oh, well, and I could tell by the condition of the cars, it was something stupid, So I went ahead and wired the money, because I'm not buying anything until I see them. So I always sit there, we wait for the bank wire. And I had crazy ideas, like, is it kind of a long driveway? So I'm rolling out of the garage. She said, give me a push. So she gives me a push, and I'm rolling down the driveway backwards, pop it into reverse, pop the clutch. Thing fires right off. Boom. And I'm like, this thing runs, I'm like, yes. And so I put the DeLorean on the trailer. So now I have 2 Lotus and I have 2 DeLoreans. I decided to go ahead, I'm going to put all these cars up on my website. They're all nice in their own way. So I'm like, I'll put them, both Lotus and both DeLoreans up on the website. Whatever one sells, I'll just keep the other one, because these were, ones that I wanted to keep around personally in my own collection. So I sold the white Lotus very quickly, which I was fine. The red Lotus, I had the 90. It was more of a driver, but I liked that about it. So I put both DeLoreans up there. One is I put the 82 up there, and they were both 5-speed manual cars. The 82 was a gray interior. The 83 was black interior. I really liked the 83. It was everything. It was the most rare, black interior, low miles, but it's worth a lot of money, right? So I put $45,000 on the 82, and I put $60,000 on the 83. Just thinking, okay, I'm going to put a little bit of a premium on that car. It's probably maybe worth 50 right now. So I'm going to put it up there for 60. Lo and behold, the white Lotus sold, right? Boom, immediately went out to California. And so I'm okay, well, that's gone. Keep the red one. And then I actually had a guy from Australia. I mean, here I am, like, I'm just selling salvage yard. No, I'm shipping cars to Australia. Like, is this really happening? I'm like, I'm not a international car dealer. I mean, this is weird for me. But he was a super cool guy, and he handled the shipping and stuff and had to do all this crazy stuff to get it going. So long story short, I sold the 82. And so I'm like, okay, well, with the profit of the 82 and the Lotus, I mean, I had a free 83, and I had it on my website, and then $60,000. And every week I want to buy this car. The 83, 60 grand. These things just keep going up in value, and I got this thing for virtually free. And it's like, it seems like it's crazy, but just Kelly, the kind of crazy car nut that I am, Tyler's like, you're crazy if you don't sell that car. And I'm like, if I sell this car that I have nothing into, because I'm not paying $50,000 or $60,000 for a DeLorean. I'm not that guy. The only cars that I can keep are the ones that I get, I steal or get for free or whatever, or make some deals to make it happen. So literally, all the messages, I just kept going, sale pending, sale pending, sale pending. And then finally, against Tyler's better judgment, I just marked it sold and pulled it off the website and marked it sold. And it's still in the garage, 12,000 miles. And now it's gone up another 10 grand. The values of the DeLoreans just keep going up. But I love that car. It's the best one. It's unrestored, mint condition, and driving. There's a lot of nice ones out there that are static displays. That's not me. I drive my cars.
Premier Financial Services makes it easier and more affordable than you could possibly imagine to own your dream car. Their Simple Lease is one of the most powerful tools in the world of exotic car financing. You get all the benefits like the tax savings and the low payments of a lease with all the additional benefits that you normally find in a traditional finance arrangement. You can build up equity, you can pay it off early, you can trade in and out of cars because you get a very clear and easy to understand amortization table to understand what your payoff will be any month throughout your term. And all the while, the amazing team from Premier Financial Services will be right there to help you along the way. They've been supporters of the VINwiki channel now for 5 years in a row, so we can't thank them enough for that, but mostly we're thankful for the fact that they can help you make it easier than ever to own your dream car. Check them out now.